Hey everyone, for today's video, we're going to talk about A/B copywriting tests, creating value propositions, how we test, and the process that we go through, the frameworks that we use. This video is just my thoughts on these things. I very much think that my expertise is in the technical side of cold email. I'm using this to basically get all my thoughts out on the way that we do things now. But I would even say and start this video by saying that Josh Braun is probably the greatest of all time of putting this kind of content together. And so I would definitely give him a follow for cold email copywriting. But with that, we're going to jump into the video and talk about how we A/B test and we do our frameworks and things like that. I wanted to start this video just talking about the different types of tests that I believe you can make when you're doing cold email copywriting, and then we can talk more deeper into them. Because I see people sometimes A/B test copy. And to be honest, the only time I really see people A/B test copy is when we have customers who used to work with a lead generation agency and we get to see the A/B tests that the other lead gen agency was running. And sometimes they're just testing things that just don't matter. And sometimes I see posts about this as well. And I'm sure we're guilty of this too. I'm not saying that we're perfect on this. And so I first want to start all of this with, what actually matters when you're testing cold email copywriting. So in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I do not think that it totally matters if you say hello first name versus hey first name. A/B testing that is just ridiculous. Now, obviously, I'm starting with something that is completely trivial, but a better example of this would be like in the call to action saying, hey, would you want to learn more about this versus, hey, would you be opposed to learning more about this? I don't know. I am not a big believer in that really changes things that much that people are going to start responding. If I'm wrong, let me know, but that's not really the point here. I'm really the point that I'm trying to make, even if that's a bad example, is that there are things that are trivial in your cold email copywriting, and you should be testing the things that are non-trivial. So the things that I think are non-trivial are the offers, outcomes, the problems, and the value propositions that you are creating. Now, of course, everything comes down to an offer. So what do I mean by that is like, it's really the way that you present the offer, right? Because sometimes I have sent emails that we don't actually even say anything about our offer in the email. And so we've done this for ourselves before where all I did was just reach out to people. I reached out to recruiters and all we said was, hey, we worked with another staffing and recruiting firm and we helped them get so many BD orders that that they had to hire another recruiter. Could I send you the video of how? And so that's more of like a lead magnet resource kind of thing. There's no offer in there of, I suppose the offer is that we are going to help you get so many BD orders that you're going to, need to hire another recruiter. But really I'm framing it of it, I'm not trying to get you buy on that. I'm trying to just send you a video that's going to be useful to you. So I would call that more of a lead magnet. So offers is something like, if we could accomplish X without Y, would that be useful? Right. And so different offers for different companies, and I don't want to use my company as an example, but testing offers on outbound sometimes are different than things in inbound, right? So as an agency, our offer, I would say as a top level headline is whatever message you send with 10 minutes of research, we want to scale to your entire market, right? I would say that's our top level headline offer. But if you break it down, we also have email deliverability offers, we have data offers, we have lead scoring offers, we have CRM hygiene offers that we can make, we have copywriting offers that we can make, we have just strategy offers that we can make, we have clay table offers we can make. There's so many micro offers that we can talk about within our agency that when we go outbound, people are going to care less or more about, right? And so just because somebody comes inbound to you talking about a problem doesn't mean that same problem is going to be interesting when you talk to random people on the outbound channel, right? And so offers is one of those things that will split test. And then we have outcomes. And so I know I just said that this is more of a lead magnet thing, but I am not so much as saying, I help other dental agencies get 20 more patients per month without increasing ad spend. Like that's an offer. But an outcome is saying, hey, I'm not sure if you'd be interested in this, but I just helped another dental company add, $30,000 in revenue. Would you want to hear about that? And so I feel like the outcome is like a mini case study, and that's how it's a little bit different. Even as I'm explaining this, I know that it sounds like offers and outcomes are super blurred. I guess the difference I'm thinking of it is the outcome is tied to a mini case study with the offer. So this could almost be like a micro version of offer, is just you're making an offer tied to a case study here. And so even in real time, I would just edit that and say that. And then problem sniffing is another angle that you can take. And so oftentimes these are tied to triggers, but they don't always have to be tied to triggers. So you could reach out to people who are the chief marketing officers of marketing agencies with 50 employees and say something that just every marketing agency is going to be having problems with, like, just managing teams and making sure that creative is staying, high quality and things like that. Like, that's always going to be a problem. And then you have triggers as well, where, if they got to 50 employees, but they did it in the last 6 months and they went from 25 to 50 in the last 6 months, they're going to have a lot different problem than somebody who's been at 50 employees for 3 years. Right. So that kind of problem sniffing of say, like, I saw you have this problem. Do you want to do something about it? Usually when I see this problem, it means these things. And, that's those kinds of things. And then we have the value propositions / the solutions. And so I think this was what specifically people wanted me to talk more about, but I didn't want to just make a video about this. I wanted to encapsulate everything. And so when you're testing value propositions, every value proposition comes down to these 5 things. And in B2B sales, we only care about these 3 things. So it's save time, save money, make more money, and then raise status, and then live forever. So like, a gym is going to help you live forever. A diet plan is going to help you live forever. We don't really talk to businesses about living forever. And then I talk about raise status isn't really a B2B offer. People have then come back at me on LinkedIn and they say, oh, but like, we can help them get a promotion. I don't know, if I sent a cold email or if I received a cold email that was basically talking about, hey, I'm here to help you get a promotion, I wouldn't believe them. And then, I don't think my prospects would believe me either. So, I just don't talk about raising status. So it really comes down to these 3: save time, save money, make more money. And so, like I said, every offer usually has micro offers within it that can be interesting, right? So clay.com is this horizontal product that can do so many things. And people come to Clay for all different kinds of reasons as far as coming inbound, right? And so I would, just because you think of Clay as a spreadsheet that attaches, APIs into itself. If you've never seen Clay before, welcome to the YouTube channel, because you've never seen my videos before, I bet. But, Clay is this platform that essentially, like I said, is just a spreadsheet connected with APIs. And for the outbound use case, really, really speeds up time for people. But when you're emailing people, like, maybe they don't care about that. Maybe they really, really care about keeping their CRM clean. And maybe they really care about keeping everything updated so their SDRs don't have to manually check all these different places and things like that. Right. And then saving money is, I'll just keep using Clay as an example, right? So you can use any data integration that you want. And whether the data integrations inside of Clay are cheaper for people or they're, better and with the higher quality, whatever it might be, there's always multiple ways that we can talk about saving money for Clay, right? So we can talk about data, like cheaper data saving money. We can talk about more accurate data helping people save money. We can talk about how the workflow can save their team. They don't have to hire as many people because they could just keep doing the same workflow, but without as many people, right? So that's all saving money. And then making more money. Again, there's so many different ways that you could split it up. And so a lot of times people will break it down and they'll say, hey, these are our value propositions, and, we help people save time this way. We help people save money this way. We help people make more money this way. They won't even break it down like that. They'll just say, hey, we just have this offer. And that's just the way that it is. And so I just challenge you to really think like this. These are the 3 ways in B2B that you can help somebody. And every single offer I've ever seen does this in multiple ways. And so on the outbound channel, people are going to care about it differently. And so I would say these are the top 4 of the kind of The ways that we do our different testing is we'll first present offers, then we'll talk basically about case studies with offers, and then we'll try to just message people about like, if you have this problem, can we help? And then we'll just message people about solving these problems. And so any of these four, if you were to message a prospect about any of these four, they should be able to work on their own. Like, you should just be able to message a prospect about your offer. You should just be able to message them about like, hey, do you have this problem? And if you have this problem, would you want to look at solving it? And you should be able to just present a solution, and you should be able to get responses. Some of them are, of course, going to work better than others. But when you find something that kind of like, you find a great offer that has a great case study that you can talk about, like I said, you probably are combining these things together. And then you have a great problem to call out, and you have a great solution to tie to that problem and then feed it into that outcome. Killer email, killer email, right? And so that's where we want to get to. So all four of these things should work on their own, but then if you combine them together, it just gets a lot better. And so the next thing I just want to talk about is demand capture versus demand generation. I actually first saw this comparison from the Client Ascension guys, Christian and Daniel. And I just think it's absolutely fantastic. And so what they mean by this is, so there's demand when marketing, right? There's demand capture, and then there's demand generation. And so demand capture is when somebody basically woke up that day and they say to themselves, I have this problem and I need to go solve it. And then demand generation is just somebody's living their life, and then they just see something and they say, oh, you know what? Actually, I need to do something about this. So you ever see those billboards for the personal injury law firms, right? They are not like, if you look at those billboards and you say to yourself, I can't, like, how do these even work? Why are they advertising? I don't have a personal injury right now. They don't care. They're looking for those people who have the problem right now, and they see that billboard and they say, oh my gosh, I was just in a personal injury accident. I need that, right? An example I love to use all the time too is, there's nothing, like, there's no way that you can email me about buying a bouncy house for a child's birthday party until my niece has her birthday coming up in October, and I'm going to need to get a bouncy house. Then I'm going to go online and I'm going to, look for bouncy houses. Now, where do people capture my demand? Marketplaces, Facebook Marketplace, Amazon, Google Ads, all those different kinds of things, right? And so the reason I think, and so an example of demand generation though is if you can email somebody about something that they had never known about before, and then you can pitch them in a way of and pique their interest of, oh, I didn't even know that this was possible. Let's talk about it. So a perfect example of this is when I first started my agency, we figured out how to hack LinkedIn events that we could basically guarantee that in a month we could get 2,000 people to attend an event. And so that was basically our offer, was like, I would literally just email people and I would say, hey, we found this exploit in LinkedIn events that we're basically able to guarantee that we'll get 2,000 people there. They'll all register for your email list. You'll be able to put on the event. You'll be able to remarket to them. We have a case study of 2 people doing it. Would you want to talk about it? Right. So nobody woke up today and they said, oh, I got to figure out a way to use LinkedIn events for my business. But if I say, hey, there's this new thing going on with LinkedIn events that you've never heard of before, do you just want to hear me out? Because other people are making money and I think you should be making money too. You can generate that demand. You can get them to wake up and say, oh, you know what? Didn't even think about this, but I'm interested. And so the reason I think this is a huge thing to talk about, especially in cold email, which I mean is the only thing that I even want to say I have any kind of basis in, but there are people who of course know more than I do. Anytime you use any of these frameworks, offers, outcomes, problem sniffing, value proposition, anytime you do any of these, you want to tilt your cold email towards demand generation, right? So the same software can have a demand, or the same offer can have a demand capture arm to it and a demand generation arm to it. So if I were to reach out about recruiting and I were to say, hey, are you open to using recruiters? You would have had to wake up that day and say, you know what? I can't fill anybody for this role. I need to use recruiters, which sometimes isn't a bad strategy. Usually you have to send way more volume because you're just playing a numbers game at that point, trying to find a needle in the haystack. But if you just say, hey, are you open to using recruiters? You're just trying to capture the demand in the market of the people who are willing to use a recruiter right now. Versus if you were to say, hey, I'm not sure if you'd ever even think about using a recruiter, but I've got this software engineer. They're ex-Stripe. They know exactly what they're doing. I saw you're trying to build a payment infrastructure company, and I saw in the job description that you're looking for somebody who has a lot of experience with data and the payments infrastructure. They're ex-Stripe. That's exactly what they were doing before. Would you want to talk about that? Right now, we have shifted the same offer that is a demand capture offer to demand generation. They woke up that day and they were like, I don't really want to use recruiters. But then this person falls from the sky and says that they have an exact solution to their problem. A lot more of a likelihood that there's going to be more people who are going to respond to that. Now, in that example, it's very defined because you got to find other companies that are Stripe that would like somebody from Stripe. But let's just take a step back and just make it, because I don't want anybody to walk away from this video not having received value. So again, if you were to just say, hey, I saw in the job description that you need people like this. Like I saw in the job description that you need people who have this. Maybe I'm just doing a bad job of this. I'm sorry. We'll let the Stripe example stand and we'll just move on. And so do we see how, so any way you have your offer, there's a demand capture side and there's a demand generation side. And we always want to lean towards demand generation, right? And so even for clay.com, if we were to reach out to somebody and we were to say, hey, would you be willing to look at, would you be willing to rip out all the contracts that you have and, use Clay 100% as the only place that you're getting data from? Like there's a special person who's they hate their data provider right now. And like, that's the kind of person who's going to respond to something like that. But if you were to start a lot smaller and say, hey, there's this one little thing that Clay is really good at that I think would have a lot of value for you. And I'm not sure if you know how it works. Clay is able to scrape Google Maps for local job listings so that you could get data about companies that don't really have a LinkedIn presence. Would you be interested by that? Right? Or it has a feature that allows you to find out which companies are working remotely. Things like that, right? Where, again, both sides, there's a demand capture and there's a demand generation. So then the other thing that I always talk about is you want to be a doctor, not a used car salesman. And so so what we're talking about here, right, is I am a very, very big proponent of consultative based selling. I know in enterprise, it gets way different. I have no clue how to do enterprise sales. That's actually like a big reason why when I was working at Clay for a year, they said you kind of got to make your decision between the agency and Clay, is because I had to start a journey to become an enterprise sales rep, or just keep going in my agency, and my agency was taking off. So then that was just one reason. Love the Clay team, love the product, and I got promoted to customer, so it's all good. But so I'm not saying I know a whole lot about this, but sometimes when I was even doing Clay calls, or when I do calls for my own agency, or when we're just talking with people, I am just trying to figure out what their problem is, and if I can solve it, how I would solve it, or if they should just solve it themselves, or I might even say, you don't even have this problem, right? So an example of this is one time I was speaking with a company that they were already using Zapier to clean all of their data, and they were doing all this crazy stuff. They were using SalesLoft, and then they had already split test 15 different versions of copywriting, and they knew the one that worked the best. So they called us and they said, hey, do you think you'd be able to improve this? And we go through everything and blah, blah, blah. So I basically said, hey, the only thing that I would change about this process is I always get off of SalesLoft and use something way cheaper like Smart Leader Instantly and do that. And so they said, okay, would you set that up for us? And I said, well, no, because you guys have everything dialed in so much. Why would I help with, like, you're just going to pay me this money to just follow tutorials on their website? Like, you shouldn't do that, right? And so that same kind of style we want to try to put into the emails as well. And so instead of just saying to people, hey, we're the payment infrastructure for the internet, Stripe can say to people, oh, hey, when we're talking to other CTOs, it's really, really difficult to connect their payment processing with all of the different APIs and the credits that they want to have. I'm not sure if you're seeing that problem too, but if you have usage-based pricing, do you have a way that it's easy for you to integrate that with your payment processing platform? Way different email, right? Way different email. And so a used car salesman, though, is just going to be hammering their offer and just say, we're the payment infrastructure for the internet and we can help anybody and you should be using us. And, we've got the best rates and we're so super fast and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, they don't really care. They care about getting their problem solved. And so in the cold email, we can do some sniffing around. We can say, hey, we talked to other people and they say that they have this problem. Is that a problem you have? This is actually a great one. One of our customers is One Schema, and they do CSV imports. And this was one of the best examples. I'm like, doctor versus used car salesman, because we could just say, CSV imports is so much faster and you get it set up in 3 days and this, that, and the other thing. But the email we're sending is we're scraping the websites to figure out how many pages they mention CSV imports on, because support pages, because if you have a great CSV import process, you shouldn't have to have support pages for it. It should be a streamlined, easy experience for everybody. And so if you have 7 pages that mention CSV import, probably a problem, right? So then we could literally email people now. We could say, hey, I was checking out your support pages, saw you mentioned CSV imports on this page, and it was mentioned on 6 other pages. Is this something that you'd want to make easier for your customers so that, you could increase your activation and different things like that? We're helping these other companies do X, Y, Z, right? And the amount of times we would get people who would email and they say, I never respond to these things, but actually CSV imports is a gigantic problem we're having right now. You're totally right. I would totally take a demo. Let's go. Mind blowing, right? So doctor versus used car salesman. We always want to be approaching it from, hey, if you have this problem, I might have a solution for you, versus features. I'm the best in the world. All these things. And so then lead magnets is another one. And I'm going to talk about giving away the farm in a little bit. But so lead magnets is the other one. I mean, if you don't know what a lead magnet is, I'll define it, but you should really read $100 Million Leads by Alex Hormozi. If you're new to the channel, huge fan. He's another person that you should just absolutely follow. And so a lead magnet is defined by Hormozi as a free thing that you give away that the market knows other people are charging for, right? So if you think that your lead magnet is your webinar, unless your webinar is amazing, it is not actually a lead magnet, because nobody else is really charging for something like that. And I mean, even if your course was free before, it was paid before and now you're giving it away for free, unless the course is truly groundbreaking, it's really not going to be like that. So one lead magnet that I always use as an example from our agency is we go to people and we say, hey, I think you sell to these kinds of people. If we hop on a call for 15 minutes, I'll build you a list of 5,000 of those people. I'll give you all their email addresses and all of the mobile numbers we can find. Would you want to hop on a call about that? And so the 5,000 leads with emails and mobile numbers is that hook where it's like Zoom Info is charging for that. Apollo is charging for that. Seamless is charging for that. There are companies in the world who are charging for this, and I'm giving it away for free. And not only am I giving it away for free, but also Seamless, Apollo, Zoom Info. If they start with a free trial, they start with like 100 credits. I'm talking about 5,000 email addresses, right? So just a way bigger lead magnet. And so I think lead magnets are really easy for those that can create lead magnets. And so most of my customers who are in the software world, they actually have a tough time creating lead magnets. And it's actually something we struggle with a lot, because the people who give more in emails are definitely getting a lot more for free. They give more and they're getting more responses back, 100%. But there's some of our customers that we work with where until their software is integrated with the ERP and the CRM and the HRIS system, and they get onboarded and all these things, you really can't get value from the product. So it gets really tough to make a lead magnet, because what are you going to give away for free that they don't already have access to? And so, what are you going to give away for free that you're going to have to get paid for, or like they're going to have to give up their privacy to be able to give you and everything? And so, so one thing that you can lean back on with lead magnets is processes, insights, and education, right? And so if you don't have a tangible thing to give away, like 5,000 free leads, you could also lean back onto, hey, with all these spam updates with Google, I'm not sure if you have seen open rates declining. We have a tried and true method in order to increase open rates and stay out of the spam filters. Would you want to hear about it? And so now we're giving away a process, or we're educating, or we're giving some kind of insight. right? Another thing that you could say is, we run cold email campaigns for 50 customers right now. Would you just want to chat about what's working, across those customers right now? We could just share any hacks or anything that we know that could be useful to you, right? So that's an insight. Every business is built, maybe not every business. Most businesses are built off of a knowledge arbitrage, right? So, your favorite restaurant, they know how to cook the food and they know how to source the ingredients in a way that you don't know how to do. Software companies, they have built a process a lot of times in a way that you might know how to do, but you just don't want to take the time to do it, right? Or you genuinely don't know how to do it, right? Like retention.com. I have zero clue how they get their data. Not a single idea. Do I know how Apollo.io gets their data? Yeah, I could piece it together. But retention, no clue, right? And so in the software world, a lot of the times it's maybe not so much of that like knowledge arbitrage, but it's, either you're going to build this or you don't know how to build this. And so sharing the processes of how you made it faster, sharing the insights, educating them on these things, those are other kinds of lead magnets that you can use, especially when you have a really big enterprise solution or something that it's really hard to give away tangible value. Being able to say, hey, would you just want to know how other companies are running their attribution reports from, to see which channels are the best, just talking about those problems and being able to solve them, even if it's just solving through a conversation, right? Like going back to this consultative approach over here. So then give away the farm and then pull back. This is actually something that we're probably going to start doing more often. And so with cold email campaigns, sometimes I'm truly not sure, and I'm going to just be vulnerable here. I'm truly not sure if we suck or the offer is tough to work with. And so that makes it, it's so easy for us to say, oh yeah, it's a bad offer. We're just going to throw it away. And maybe we just suck. And that's like a very real possibility. And so one way that we've been trying to figure out is if we suck or if it, is a bad offer, is we start just thinking about how could we give away the entire farm and then pull back from there. And so what I mean by that is you can tell if something is a bad offer because if you offer it for free, nobody will take you up on it. Right. And so if you, if you were to email somebody and it's not working and then you shift to, okay, my offer is we've got a freelancer management CRM that we can pay all of your freelancers all completely automatically and we do it for free. Would you take me up on that? Right. And it's like, if that's your whole offer, right. And it's like, and we do it for free. Then it's like, okay, if nobody bites on that, you've got a problem, right? Because if it's free, then why aren't they taking it? Or the cost of switching is so high that you need to explore that and figure that out too, right? Because if Stripe were to cold email you and they were to say, hey, we can process your payments for absolutely free, would you be interested? You're going to take them up on it every time. If I were to cold email you as a cold email agency and I were to say, hey, I'll set up the email infrastructure, I'll get all of the data, we'll do all the copywriting, it's completely free. Would you take me up on that? Like you would have to, like the only reason you're not going to say yes to that is because you don't believe me. It's like, it sounds too good to be true, right? And so then what we'll do is we'll kind of, if we see a campaign is struggling, we'll move all the way to the opposite direction. And I know this gets a little bit tough. So this is actually where we use fake domains, which for you agency owners in there, you kind of know what I'm talking about, but we'll use fake domains and we won't message from the company and we will just put an offer out there and see if people take us up for free because you don't, obviously I know that you as your branded company do not want to cold email people and say that we're giving this away for free and then never fulfill on it, right? And so what we'll do is we'll send from fake domains and we'll say, oh, hey, if somebody could do this for you and it was free, would you take up on it? Because then if they follow up and nothing happens, like we're just doing this for market testing, we can try to do something for that person maybe, and maybe like my ethical lines are a little bit blurred and I don't know, but what we'll do is we'll send to 500 people and we'll see if anybody will take us up on that for that free offer. And then we'll ratchet it back and then pull it back down to what their actual offer is like. But we take those learnings of what people would pick up on, right? Because maybe somebody wouldn't want me to set up inboxes for them for free, but they're going to take 5,000 free leads for free. So then it's like, okay, we're going to talk more about data on outbound. And so if your cold email campaigns aren't working that well, I would really try going back up here and running through, what kind of offers and outcomes can you give and then what kind of problems you solve and what kind of value propositions you provide. And if you try to reach out to people and say that you would do it for free, would they even take you up on it? And if they won't, then you know you've got a major problem that's bigger than just the cold email channel. And, you know, like, oh, I don't know if my copywriting is good and everything. And so, yeah, this is a big thing that we've been doing recently. And so, like I said, I think Josh Braun is probably the greatest of all time at writing these emails. So I just wanted to put this in here. And I'm just literally going to read through it, but you guys should definitely follow Josh Braun. And so he calls this the 4T framework. So he's got trigger, think, third-party credibility, and then talk. So gauging interest. So his trigger here for vendor is, hey, Pete, you probably have around 150 SaaS tools. If I were actually sending this for vendor, I would pull their built with tech and then actually get the total amount of technologies they have installed on their website and be like, hey, Pete, built with told me that you have 150 SaaS tools installed on your website. Crazy. And then think, a question that illuminates a potential problem that matters to them. How do you know you're not overpaying for software? With my version, I would say, how do you know you're not paying for software that you're not using anymore? And then third-party credibility. Kevin Troshan, CFO at Extensive, user tech to negotiate a price increase from 30% down to 15% with DocuSign. Lets you discover how your prices compare. Let's help you discover. Yeah, let's help you discover how your price compares to others. So, and then in my example, I'd probably like look up examples of technology they have installed on their website and say, like, you know, for instance, one of the things I saw that you have installed is this. A lot of times people don't use that, or a lot of times we can help people save money on that. Would you want to talk? Yeah, open to seeing how CEOs save an average of 17%. So again, this is kind of that outcome thing that I was talking about, but he's using it as a CTA here. So again, just a great example of a cold email. And so then we take all of these things, and these are kind of the angles that we're going to do. And then we have these templates that we kind of put them into. And this is not an exhaustive list. I was trying to just put together a great video for you guys. We're already 30 minutes in, and I was preparing for this video by thinking it out and all these things. And so this is not an exhaustive list, but it's just some ideas. And so I just wanted to quickly talk on subject lines. If you haven't heard me talk about this before, I hate long subject lines. I don't understand how some of our customers, they want us to send subject lines like, don't hire an accountant until you do this. It's like that. Who would ever open that? So the Lavender guys call this internal camo. I guess maybe they invented it before I did. But the way I've always thought about this is and honestly, maybe it's because my ethical lines in cold email might be a little gray compared to some people, but I always want to make it seem like a customer or a colleague is emailing them, right? So the top performing subject line we've ever sent was for a company that helped restaurants get more orders by, you know, rebuilding their website, creating ordering systems and doing all of these things. And specifically we're targeting pizza shops. So our subject line was just pizza order. That's it. Just pizza order. Because a customer would totally send them a subject line with a pizza order, but you don't want it to be a bait and switch. Like, you don't want to say pizza order and then say, you know, I want to order pizza, blah, blah, blah. Like I want to order pizza, but your process stinks. You should be using this company to do it. Like that. You don't want to do that. We would literally say, hey, like, wouldn't you want to get more pizza orders? This is how we do it, blah, blah, blah. And so you always want to send something that it's possible that a colleague or a customer has sent in the subject line. And then sometimes we'll default to, you know, question for company or question for first name or first name question, quick question. Like, the only times I do those, though, is like when I really can't think of anything. And at this point, that's so few and far between. But all of your subject lines should beat quick question. That's kind of like the bar, I would say. Well, I guess everyone's doing quick questions so lazily. So just say question first name or whatever it might be. I work with somebody who's ex-Ramp, and they did a lot of testing. And he swears up and down that the best subject line they've ever sent is first, like kind of like this, where it's like sender, or no, I think it's first name, like the prospect of the first name, prospect first name, and then sender first name. He swears like to his grave that this is the greatest subject line that they've ever tested. Do with that what you will. And so when it comes to these frameworks, right? So the general one that we kind of use for everything is the John Barrows, why you, why now? So we're basically just explaining why we're contacting them now, explain why this is a problem. Or I love poking the bear, That's what Josh Braun calls it, giving them some kind of question to be like, hey, how do you, think about this? And then we explain how we solved that problem in the past, just like Josh was talking about with that case study, and then an interest-based CTA, right? And so, hey, John, I noticed you're hiring for an SDR and an AE from the job, and from the job description, it looks like they have different comp structures. Why you? Why now? You're doing this, and why now? It looks like they have different comp structures. We're helping other VPs that are having a tough time to accurately pay commissions across complex plans. Demand-based went from manually paying people from Excel reports to our automated commission payout system. Whatever. I made this literally in 20 seconds. Would you be the right person to speak about company name commission payments? This is actually a new CTA that I like putting in because we're getting a lot of success. Would it be better to talk with someone like other employee name? And so we're getting a ton of success with this right now. And so, I guess I'm spilling the beans on myself here. So we're using Clay to find another employee at the company that we should talk to. And if we can't find an employee at the company that we should be talking to, so if we want to talk to VPs of sales and directors of sales, right? Then if we're emailing the VP of sales, I'm going to name the director of sales here. And then if we're emailing the director of sales, I'm going to name the VP of sales here. But if there's no director of sales at the company, we have it in Clay that this function just completely goes away and we just don't say anything. And so anyway, this is like one of my favorite things to do right now is just, are you even the person that we should be talking to about this? Because then if they're interested, then we can start booking for a meeting. And then if they're only slightly interested, at least tell us that they're the right person. And just knowing that they're the right person is the big thing. Or they might say, hey, this is actually the right person to talk to, because nobody is really automating this until, this gets out. And I don't know. I do not have the following to like ruin a process like this. Josh Braun does, but who knows? I'm already starting to get people who use our YouTube channel for like the AI prompts in the YouTube channel, and I get called out on it and stuff, but who knows? Or would it be better to talk with a person like employee name, right? So they'll say like, this is the right person, or they'll say, oh, actually, no, that's not the right person. You should talk to Mary, right? And then problem sniffing is more what I was talking about before, where we're just straight up calling out their problem. And much like the vendor one that I just gave as an example that I just talked through, that's a great problem sniffing one because you know that they have that many. And then super short, I literally just put these in here to just say, if you're writing a super short message, you would just delete everything. Like if we were doing a super short message for vendor, which sometimes I like as a pattern interrupt, to just, pattern interrupt is right after this, but saying like first name, built with, told me you have 155 tools installed on the site. Would you be interested in automatically finding the ones we could cut your invoice monthly spend on? We're interested in automatically finding the ones we could cut your monthly spend on and only pay us a percentage of the money you save, right? Something like that. I don't know. This might even be too long. Who even knows? Maybe we left the super short realm, 40 words. So, maybe it could be shorter than that, but I'm doing it on the fly for this. So super short messages. I love split testing, like a perfectly formatted, great email versus just literally a super short, just, hey, let's just talk about this. Pattern interruption. Okay. So these are some things, you should really, Oren Claff is somebody that I get a lot of ideas for pattern interruptions for emails. So sometimes we'll put the whole message in subject lines. I love doing this really for local service companies or old time like manufacturing companies where they're on the road. They don't really care. And if you put the whole message in the subject line, it's got to be even shorter than this. Don't get me wrong. Like it's got to be super, super short. Like right now we're literally sending to construction companies. We're literally sending, how are you managing all of the fleet data right now? Like there's a little bit more to it than that, but I don't want to talk about it because we're still testing it. But like we're literally putting the whole message in the subject line, and in the body of the email, we're just saying my subject line says it all. Let me know. So just sending emails like nobody else is sending. Casual misspellings. This is something we don't do a whole lot of, but sometimes we'll just misspell things. And then what we'll also do is we'll email someone again to fix a misspelling after you detect they opened it. So here's the whole play. And I know you guys are going to message me about this, so I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it. Because the last time I talked about this, everybody was like, how do you make it happen? And I'm like, I'm sorry, this is tough. So what we'll do is we will put a misspelling in the email. And so we'll say, hey, how do you know your website is optimized for conversation? Yeah. How do you know your website is optimized for conversation? And then when we detect that they opened the email, we will send them another email as fast as we can and put asterisk conversion. So sorry, I sent that before I let it get sent out. And so the way we do this is, so one, if you're listening to this, you might know why this works, but it's like, who would automate that? So it makes it look really human. So the way we do this is you can use the Smart Lead API or the Instantly API to do this. And then we use Clay to get it done so we don't have to pay for all the triggers and everything. So basically we just, when an email is opened, we get a webhook sent. And so I think in Instantly, this is actually a setting that you can do where if you just, like if you say next email sends 3 days after this email is sent, or I'm pretty sure there's a setting in Instantly where it's this email is sent this many days after an open, you just mark it 0 days after an open. And, as soon as they get the open, everything's going to work. And so in Smart Lead, though, the way that you would do this is we send a webhook of the emails being opened to a Clay table. And then we will add them to a new campaign in Smart Lead where it looks like we did a reply. So the subject line is RE, blah, 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 the same way that you would do a reply. And then the email looks like it's threaded, but we didn't actually thread it. No. And so we are not technically threading into it, but we're saying like in Smart Lead, we're writing it as if it was a threaded message, like we're faking it. But no person has ever received that email from us and said, hey, you sent me 2 emails. Like that doesn't really happen. They don't really notice that it wasn't threaded. They usually see it for what it is. And so, yeah, go for it. It's like pretty simple to do something like that. And then memes. I love memes. This is probably my, I'm not sure if I'm sharing my window or if I'm sharing a tab. So like, I just like how memes can just make somebody laugh and you can use them properly in a B2B context. So there's one way to not use it and there's a way to use it. So one of my favorite memes to use is there's a picture of a tractor thing, excavator, trying to dig out that ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal. And I'll caption the ship like the problem, and I'll be like, your team's capability to manually research accounts for outbound or something like that. Maybe we'll make it shorter. And then we'll name the excavator your team's bandwidth, right? So it's like you've got this big, massive problem and you don't have time to fix it, right? Or, your 2024 revenue goals and then your marketing spend, right? Like, and it's just that's probably my favorite go-to meme on that. And then a meme that I would say doesn't work, or an attempt at a meme that doesn't work because they didn't caption it. So it wasn't technically a meme. One time Sendoso sent me an email where, and I mean, more power to Sendoso. Great platform and all these things. I think there's just an SDR over there. The whole email was basically like, hey, meet my dog. And so they're basically like, hey, your company just got added to my account. So I just wanted to introduce myself so we could build a relationship. And if you don't want to build a relationship with me, meet my dog Sprinkles. And then they put like the dog Sprinkles in there. And then the subject line was even meet Sprinkles or something like that. And so it was funny. Don't get me wrong. And I responded, and I actually became friends with the sales rep, even though we couldn't buy. The only thing is like, I don't know. I responded because I'm of the generation to respond. I don't think that would work with everybody. And it doesn't really have anything to do with your value as a company. So that's why I like making memes that have to do with the value of the company. Creative ideas or AI application of the solution. This is just one thing. Maybe I'll make a whole video. Actually, I've already made a video on this, but we did it just for one specific use case, and we could talk about doing it more in particular. And so I just love using AI to basically look at what my company does and then look at what the company does and then just merge it together so that I'm sending an email where it's literally like, hey, I think you might have this problem. Specifically, I think our solution could help you do this. Like, I think our solution could help you do the financial planning so that you guys could stay more focused on planting more trees, and then you can just do the financial planning automatically, right? Something like that. And then I just wanted to talk a little bit about follow-ups. I think a lot of people send terrible follow-ups because you are writing follow-ups as if you're sending ads and not following up with somebody, right? So for one, we never follow up with an email more than once because I think the only purpose of a follow-up is to add context to what you said in the email that you're following up to that you didn't have time to say, right? Because you want to make that email as short as possible. But there's definitely things that you cut out of that email that are important that you could put into the follow-up email. So the reason we need that follow-up email is because we might say some things that don't make sense without the original email. But other than that, if I wasn't doing that, I'd probably send net new emails for the rest of my life because you have to think about why follow-up emails work. And so before Outreach and Sales Loft and all these tools, the only way you could send mass email was like you bought MailChimp or Constant Contact or something like that, right? And MailChimp and Constant Contact, they don't allow you to reply to an email. So when Outreach and Sales Loft came out, really when Google opened up their API, when these platforms came out and now you could reply to an email automatically, it looked so real because the same reason that I think we catch people who like the same people, like, I mean, for the same reason that this works, right? When we misspell something purposely, that kind of makes sense. But then after we detect that they opened it, we hit them with the correction. This works because they're like, who would automate that, right? And so now a lot of people are sending emails now. They don't remember that follow-ups wasn't possible from these other platforms when you were mass emailing people. So then you would get an email and then somebody would follow up to it and they were like, oh my gosh, they didn't automate this to me. Like, this is a real email. I need to do this. And so now everybody knows that this is possible. Well, I don't know. There are still some people who don't know how we got their email addresses, even though their email address is firstname@domain.com, which is the most mind-blowing thing ever that you don't think we could just guess that, right? And so with follow-ups, it used to be a pattern interruption. It's just not a pattern interrupt anymore. And so, yeah, that's why we only follow up to just give more context. I would send net new emails every single time. I don't want to remind them. Like, I don't even remember a cold email I received 3 days ago. So, or I mean, even the same day. So if I'm following up with somebody, I don't want to remind them that this is the email that they didn't respond to already, right? I want to come in with a complete fresh thing. So we'll go email 1, email 2 is threaded to email 1, email 3 is completely net new. And then right now we're ending our sequences at email 3. But if a client really wants us to send email 4, then we'll thread to email 4, but we'll do more of a breakup style. And so, yeah, I just with follow-ups, it's not the pattern interrupt that it used to be. And that's why we just don't use it anymore. And so I know this is kind of a long video. So please, please, please let me know if you watched this whole video, because I produced a long video without showing Clay workflows and things like that. I'm not sure if people find that useful. And so I put some effort to make this video, and I hope you could see that. I hope it was valuable to you back. So just let me know if you made it all the way through this email. And maybe we could do something fun, like, you know, if you message me that you made it all the way through this email, like type bulldog in your message so I know. And I'll keep making long videos if it's valuable. Otherwise, we'll keep it to the Clay workflows and the AI workflows and all that stuff. So thanks for your time, everybody. We'll talk soon.